Oh, yes. Let me show my beautiful logo and all that. There we go.
Yep.
Much better.
Yeah.
Yes, all planned and everything. So, holiday season coming. You guys are going to talk about that.
Hmm.
Here's the thing. For us, the biggest festival is Diwali. It's
Yeah.
either in October or November. And the amount of food I eat those days. So, I measure my weight actually quite regularly, like almost 7 times a week. But I skipped those days because I was eating so many sweets and so many snacks. And I think cooking is a big part of every holiday everywhere. You just can't have a holiday, a festivity without food. And so, lots of traditions that we carry from that. So, how about you? What kind of things you do around that are so special or different?
Yeah, I'm always cooking, and I love to cook, and so it's a part of if you hear of like love language, it's part of my love language where I like to show people how I care about them by providing food, and so I'm making cookies and sending them to people, and making some good what I think of are the family recipes. So a lot of like casseroles around that time and big dinners. So it's fun. I
Yeah.
like it. Uh,
So we were
yeah,
a beneficiary of your food one day on the Saturday when we had to work
that,
on a Saturday, and there you showed up with bread, which was
yep,
awesome.
yep.
Uh,
I've been trying. I haven't mastered bread. It tastes good, but I haven't mastered it yet. And I still am learning how to do that. I know we might be getting a few people in. It's not quite one. Tell us when you're in here. Let us know that you're here and say hi. We'd love to say hi back. And hope to enjoy this conversation with everybody. But I agree. Holidays are stressful, but they are some of the most fun times of the year.
Absolutely. And I'm looking forward to this conversation today with you and Courtney, really talking about, how can we manage it a little bit better? Of course, we have to have all the fun, we have to have the food, and we have to carry those tradition and
Yeah.
build those relationship. Absolutely important. What is also important is during this time, just how do we keep things in check without interrupting the main thing, which is the holiday. So,
And
um,
we've got some viewers that are saying hi. So, hi, Scott. Hi, Roxanne. Hey, Sydney. Thanks for joining in, guys.
excellent.
It is 1 o'clock. So, if you want to get us started, Dr. Bhargava, create a little bit of chaos for us. And then Courtney and I can have some additional conversation.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for being here today with us. I'm delighted to be here. Kind of a neat topic. Now, here's an interesting piece of research. The Associated British Food did this research, and they said an average person eats more than 7,000 calories on Christmas Day. 7,000. I was surprised and shocked when I heard that. And then the source broke it up and kind of gave an idea. Hey, by the time you eat breakfast on that day and have an eggnog, you're probably 1,100 calories. And then you have this lunch. Then you have the appetizers, which could be 1,200, and the main course, 1,700 calories, and then the dessert. So it's an insane amount of calories. And that's okay. This is our tradition. We got to do it. It's just that during that time, how do we take care of our health? So, first, as intro, I'm Dr. Bhargava or Dr. B, endocrinologist in diabetes for 25 years, just doing anything, everything I can to improve diabetes. A lot of clinical research, our innovative clinic, our diabetes portal, lots of different things. Now, today, I'm happy to be here talking about this topic, which hopefully will give you some tips and some things you can use immediately in the next 2 weeks. Courtney Slater and Jamie Pitlick will talk about a few different things. What are the different ways to make traditional foods healthier? The idea is do not skimp on your tradition, have your tradition, but how can we make it healthier? How to prevent your sugars from spiking up during those days? And what are some of the strategies and tips to avoid overeating? So I'm just happy to have with me here Jamie Pitlick, a pharmacist, faculty at Drake, very passionate about diabetes and is a routine co-host in these conversations. So Jamie, take it away.
Yeah. And we also have Courtney with us, who has been a regular on our discussions with you guys. So I'm excited to bring her back. It's a topic we both like to talk about food. I like to eat food. Courtney, you talk about it day in and day out with your job. But this is fun because we've got to be able to learn to live our life and try to make ourselves as healthy as possible. Nobody's perfect. So how can we kind of manage all of that? So that's what this conversation is all about. Just a reminder, the Diabetes Detective, interact with us. We've already got you guys in the conversation with us. So keep talking with us. I know, Roxanne, I just noticed that you're coming to us all the way from Dubuque. So awesome. I love that we're getting all parts of Iowa in here. So keep interacting and talking with us. And the person that does this and asks some of the best questions can get a $5 Amazon gift card. And of course, all the knowledge that we impart on you, hopefully. In addition, I want to put out an additional offer that if you share or tag a friend right now with this Facebook video, we will send you 5 recipes that we have either made ourselves or found on the internet and have cooked that are traditional holiday foods that are actually healthier versions of them. So we've put a couple of recipes together that we thought we would share with you guys as options to try during the holiday season that might be able to cut the calories or cut the carbs. So tag a friend, share this video right now, and we'll send you our recipes that we've collected. As we get started, we want to know, what are some of your holiday favorites? My holiday favorite, I would have to say, there's so many. But I would say probably stuffing. I'm a big fan of stuffing. What about you, Courtney?
I also have many favorites, but I would say my number one favorite is probably mashed potatoes. So many things you can do with them, and I love every single one of them.
And I think that was the other one on the top of my list. How about you, Dr. B? Oh, we can't hear you. There you go.
All right. So here's the thing. I have so many. Now, most of mine are from India, but stuffing is one. I'll tell you that I have to go to the store and buy it for sure. Now, I can't cook, and I should not cook. I tried to bring down the house just 2 days ago with the toaster, like doing the toast, and there was smoke all over. So cooking is not a good idea for me, but eating is a very good idea. A lot of Indian sweets, amazing. And many of you might have this gulab jamun, which is these brown balls that are dipped in sugar. So those are probably my favorite. But there are so many more. I'm from Old Delhi, and I'm totally a foodie. I like food. What are people saying? Oh, somebody, hermit cookies from Roxanne.
I'm not sure I know what hermit cookies are. I'd love to hear more about them.
Yeah, I'm not sure I know either.
Okay, Kathy, you've got green wreath Rice Krispie cookies. I've definitely had some of those before.
Yeah, those are fun.
Good. Awesome. Keep sending them in. Let us know. I also have some favorite sweets. I'd love to make cheesecake, and so having like a holiday flavored cheesecake is another fun one for me. Oh, Rohan, you like mac and cheese? Casey, you too. We've got some recipes possibly that are good substitutes for those. So good job mentioning those. So, as I bake around the holidays. I told you guys I bake bread. I bake cookies. I think a lot of moms do that as well, and a lot of people do. But I have tried, at least with some of like my breads, to substitute whole wheat and replace it with regular flour to try to decrease like the spikes after a meal and make it a little bit more wholesome of a food. Courtney, we've got some more things coming in. Oh, Sydney, peanut butter blossom cookies. That's one that's on the list to make every single year for me. The combination of peanut butter and chocolate is very good. Scott, green bean casserole. That's another one on mine list as well. Brenda, peanut butter fudge. But Ozempic has helped decrease the appetite for sweets. That would peanut butter fudge would be good. So Courtney, I told you one of my secrets which was trying to use whole wheat in some of my baking and cooking. What about you? What is your favorite way to try to spin a recipe that you maybe have had and make it healthier?
When it comes to baking, I really enjoy using yogurt instead of whatever the traditional fat is, whether it's butter or oil or something like that. I like yogurt because it's kind of a liquid and kind of a solid. So it does help keep the moisture in whatever it is you're baking. And I also like it because I do tend to use vanilla yogurt instead of plain yogurt because I think that vanilla flavor really complements the dessert really well. And it doesn't necessarily change the texture or the taste of the food because, again, the taste and the texture are very similar to what was in there before. Another simple way that I like to help reduce some of the calories and fat is just substituting egg whites for the whole egg or the egg yolk. I will be honest, and I don't substitute 100% of my egg yolks with egg whites, but I will do about half. So if it calls for 2 egg yolks, I might do 2 egg whites and 1 egg yolk or something along those lines because it's simple, it's easy, and I don't feel like it changes the recipe a lot, not noticeably. And so I enjoy that.
So one of the things you talked about was the yogurt, right? And you're taking away some of the fats. And I've heard that one before. What are some of the other ways? And I think we've got some of these things on how to reduce fat content. So I'll let you kind of go through this.
Yeah, we actually have several options for how you can replace butter. And then a little later, we also have options for how you can replace eggs as well. But when you're replacing butter, you can use ricotta cheese, you can use cottage cheese, you can use applesauce, you can use the yogurt that I talked about. All of these have their potential benefits, of course, which would always be the reducing calories and fat. And then each one would slightly modify or change the recipe just a little bit. When it comes to yogurt, it's a 1-to-1 substitute. So if it calls for a half cup of butter, you would use a half cup of yogurt. With the other ones, you may need to do just a little bit of math because some of these are going to be thicker. Some of them have a higher water content. So it might not be a 1-to-1 substitution. But for all of those, you can very easily find on the internet, just a simple Google search will tell you what measurements to use for substitutions.
And I think we have a link or something for some of these potentially, or maybe we're sending it out.
We should. There are even more ways than what we've listed for how to substitute fat. Those I would say are the simplest, the most common ones. And then other substitutions for eggs, for the fat in eggs or for milk. Whole milk, you can easily substitute 1% or 2%. Depending on the recipe, you may even be able to go to skim or fat-free. And then for eggs, it's just substituting 2 egg whites for every 1 egg yolk. Or you can use a 4th cup of an egg substitute, like egg beaters or the just whites.
So the one thing that I've tried before is definitely going more to that fat-free milk or the low-fat milk with some of my, what it calls for heavy cream or whole milk. I've done that. I find that it gets a little bit watery.
And that's just because there's going to be a higher water content when you're taking out all the fat. It's got to be replaced with something, and it's common. There is now fat-free half and half. It sounds kind of like an oxymoron. Like, how do you have half and half when there's actually no fat in it? But what they've done is they've just added an emulsifier to help keep it thick and keep that same flavor without adding the calories from fat in it. And so it has all the same properties, and you can use equal measurements.
Okay. I have no idea that product existed. I think I just buy half and half, or sometimes I might use half and half instead of heavy cream and just try to do some of those things. But that's a good tip that's been out there. I also saw that a tip on adding a little bit of flour to help thicken it up as well. You can add just a little bit of flour to your skim milk or 1% to help thicken up the solution a little bit.
Yep. Flaxseed is another one. Flaxseed, not chia seeds, because those absorb too much water, but flaxseed can make a nice paste when mixed with water. And so that can be a really nice fat substitute as well.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I
once
bought a really big bag of flaxseed from Costco. I think I still have about half of it. So now I know what to do with that.
There you go. Yeah, with all your holiday baking.
Yeah, I like it. Okay, so we've talked about, replacing fats and egg whites. What about sugar? I know we were talking to patients probably with diabetes. What are some of the tips for sugars?
Yeah, the single biggest way to reduce calories is by trying to cut back on the fat in your foods. But since we are focusing on people with diabetes, of course, we want to know, how can I cut back on some of these sugars that I'm eating that might spike my blood sugar? How can I help just keep my blood sugars more in check, lower my carbohydrate intake? And the good news is there are lots of options. All the sugar substitutes like Splenda, Equal, Sweet and Low, Stevia, they all have on their website information for how you can substitute whatever it is you're using. So Splenda does need you to do a little bit of math. It's not necessarily a one-to-one substitute. But some of the other ones, like Equal, which is aspartame based, is a 1-to-1 ratio, which Jamie and I figured out is how it got the name Equal.
We figured that out last week.
Yes, you use the equal amount of sugar substitute as you do sugar. All of them will have a slight flavor modification. It's not going to be huge, but generally sugar substitutes are sweeter than regular sugar. So you may notice an increase in that sweet flavor when you're baking. When you're cooking and you have to use just a little bit of sugar, like to offset maybe acid or something, you're not going to notice the difference between using sugar and a sugar substitute. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we do have a quick question back, going back to fat. Maria's asking, so if we use the fat-free half and half, we could use that instead of whole milk.
You sure could if you wanted to. When you're substituting milk, the cheaper option would be just to use 1%, 2%, or fat-free. Half and half, especially fat and free half and half, because it is considered a specialty item, might cost a little more. So you could save some money using the lower fat milk options. But yes, you could substitute fat-free half and half for the whole milk.
Cool. And do you find that right in the milk section, or do you have to go to the health area?
Nope, it'll be in the dairy section, right, with the heavy cream, the full fat half and half, usually like maybe with your coffee mixers or something like that.
Okay. Cool. I'm going to look for it. Although I haven't been in a grocery store in a while. I've been ordering online.
Me either.
Try to look for it. Okay. Yeah, I like that, talking about the all of the different options. I want to hear from our audience a little bit to see what do you guys have any tricks that that you have used in some of your cooking that we haven't talked about that you think some other people would like to hear about? And then Scott's asking, do you come to Newton, Iowa? I would say our services, we do online and in person. So if you are in Newton and you don't want to drive all the way to Des Moines to see us, we could arrange some online visits with us, and we utilize Courtney. So you could do that potentially with her as well. So yes.
Yep.
Kind of.
I do believe the Newton Hy-Vee also has access to one of their store dietitians. You could always reach out to them if it's something where you would actually like to be in the store to talk to someone. I'm not sure what their schedule is, but you should be able to find someone also at the Hy-Vee for a dietitian or nutrition services there.
Yeah. Casey is saying that she tries to hide vegetables into her holiday meals. Yeah. She learned that from you.
Year round, that's my biggest go-to, just trying to increase the fiber, increase how full I feel, increasing the volume through vegetables. I
I try to do the same thing. So if I'm making something, I'll throw a little bit more spinach or throw some broccoli or whatever I'm cooking in there.
Yep. Just increasing what's already in the recipe. That way, there's not a flavor change or anything, and a lot of people won't even notice.
Brenda says her husband does all the cooking. Send him my way. I need help some days. Kathy uses non-fat Greek plain yogurt. I've done some of those non-fat Greek yogurt differences as well. And you were saying something about baking versus cooking last week. And you taught me something, and I can't even remember exactly what it was. So retention is
That's okay. There is a big difference when baking versus when you're cooking. When you're cooking, you have a lot more freedom. Things don't have to be exact. You can fudge things a little bit or modify them a little bit, especially when it comes to spices and vegetables and individual ingredients. When it comes to baking, though, each ingredient does serve a purpose. So you have to be a lot more careful when measuring, when substituting an ingredient, making sure you're using the correct measurements to find out how that recipe might change. So that's why I always encourage people to do a quick Google search just to double check that they're substituting things correctly when they're baking. When you're cooking, I think it's pretty hard to mess up those foods when you're cooking. Baking is the big one, though, where you want to be a little more careful, which is why I don't bake, because I am one of those, I like to throw things in and just see how it turns out. So I'm much more into cooking, and I'm a lot better at cooking than I am at baking.
Yeah. And Brenda says she found a winner. He cooks with lots of vegetables, and it is his fun time. And I would say when I'm not overly stressed out, cooking is my fun time too. It's kind of relaxing to put it all together and see how it comes out. It's a creative. In a very structured, creative manner.
Yes.
I have another poll for everybody. I want to see what are some of the things that you guys do to try not to overeat. We put at a holiday meal, but honestly, you could do, what do you do to try not to overeat any time of the day, any time of the year? Let us know some of the things that you guys are doing and how successful it is.
Right. Just because we're talking about something at the holidays doesn't mean you can't use it other times of the year.
Right. And as we're waiting for some of those to come in, Brenda does have a question, and I'll throw it out to you, Courtney. Is there much of a difference between brown rice and white rice?
Nutritionally, the big difference with all whole grains is that the whole grain, the brown rice, will have a little more iron. It'll have some B vitamins in it, like folate in that. And those are going to be vitamins that naturally occur. So your body knows how to break those down and absorb the highest amount possible. Whereas with the enriched grains, like the white rice, those are going to be fortified with those vitamins and nutrients because they've actually been stripped out of the rice through the processing. So your body won't be able to break down and absorb 100% of those nutrients. So you do get a little more out of whole grain, as well as fiber. When you have a whole grain, you have the entire fiber seed, you have the entire whole grain seed. So then you get a lot more fiber. Whereas when it's enriched, usually fiber has to be added back in. So it's the same thing. Taste wise, I don't feel like there's a huge difference. I feel like brown rice, it's just a little denser, almost like a little bit thicker. So for me, making the switch from white rice to brown rice was easy, but I can understand some people really notice those differences. Simple tip would be just use half and half white rice, half brown rice, to see if he can adjust easier that way.
And you see a little bit less of a spike on sugars with the brown rice. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep, because of that fiber and stuff.
And then we've got some comments coming in on like how they're trying to avoid overeating. So we've got Rohan saying he tries to control the portions that he puts on his plate. I'll go one further for you, Rohan. And sometimes when I'm really trying hard, or I'll make this recommendation to patients, is trying to eat on a kid-sized plate. So instead of getting my gigantic normal size plate, I take my appetizer plate, I guess is what you'd call it, or your smaller plate, and make sure that you're eating off of that, and then you can't do it. And Casey's saying something similar with smaller plates.
Mm-hmm.
Sydney says she skips breakfast. Any advice for her on that, Courtney?
Yeah. I actually don't recommend skipping meals because what tends to happen is then we are really hungry when that big meal comes around. So we may actually end up eating more than we had originally planned. That can also be rough on our blood sugars as well, depending on how you manage your diabetes, whether it's with medication or an injectable or just through diet and activity. It can be harder on our blood sugars because when it's used to eating food, now suddenly there isn't anything there. It could cause an unintentional drop in blood sugars. But then when you eat that larger amount at the mealtime, then your body is going to struggle to break it all down, which could result in a higher spike. Not true for everyone, but especially with certain treatments, I don't recommend skipping the meal because the biggest part of that is then you're super hungry and you're just going to eat bigger portions and more than you normally would.
Yeah. Looking at some other comments, we've got Kathy saying she knows her limit and she knows she'll feel bad if she overeats, and I like that. And I think I can put in my tip for that, which would be if you really slow down how fast you eat and listen to your body. I know when I feel rushed, I just eat, try to clean up whatever's on my plate because I have 15 other things to do, and then I'm 10 minutes later I was like, oh, I didn't need all of that. Versus if I slow down, eat slowly, kind of stop when I know I'm done, and have that conversation with my body a little bit. Getting feedback from my body.
That's huge.
And part of that is, making it not just about the food, but about the people that are around the table, right? Especially at holidays. Now, if it's Zoom or, a Facebook meeting or however you're meeting with your family during the holiday season, you can slow down and have your discussions with them. For Thanksgiving, my kids went around and I think we went around the table 3 different times saying what they were thankful for. And they were just so excited to share and be involved in the adult conversation. And so I think since then, we've actually been doing more and more of that. And it's pretty cute.
Yeah, I agree. It's the holidays a lot are about who we're spending the time with as opposed to what we're eating. Although that's something we all look forward to, are those special holiday foods. But allowing yourself an opportunity to slow down in between bites and have good conversation, whether it's just reminiscing or, as Jamie said, sharing something that you're thankful for or something like that, especially this year when we know things are going to be different, not look like our regular holidays. It's good for us to be able to enjoy whatever time we are able to spend with family and friends, whether in person or online.
Maria says that she really tries to control the portions of her desserts. And I think that's great. I mean, having a little bit of a bite of a dessert is great, but not having that giant cookie. Maybe I can take that giant cookie, cut it in half or fourths, depending on the size. And then I get that sweet taste and don't have to have all the calories that go along with it.
Right. Especially if you've just had a big meal, you might not even have the space for that large cookie. But that doesn't mean you can't enjoy the other half later. It's just spacing those things out. And that is actually a great tip for managing blood sugars, especially. Our blood sugars really crave having that gap in between foods. So if you're having an appetizer, allowing time to pass before the meal comes. That way your blood sugar has an opportunity to spike or raise from the food you just ate and then come back down before you add more food. Because if we add more food, then our blood sugar spikes from the previous food. And then rather than coming back down, it just continues to go up. So we do notice a lot of times, and it happens to me as well. Sometimes we just notice we feel like our blood sugars are constantly high on the holidays. And occasionally when I think about it, I realize it's because I never stopped eating all day. So my blood sugar never had the chance to recover from whatever it was I ate before. So if you are able to, allowing an hour or two in between courses, between your meal and your dessert, or your snack or your appetizer and your meal, that can help your blood sugar a lot.
So like appetizers at 2, wait dinner at 4, wait dessert at 6. you know.
Yeah, if you're able to. I understand not all gatherings have the ability to be spread out like that. And if you find that you really don't have the time or the ability to spread out like that, I mean, who wants to be on a 6-hour Zoom call, even if it's with family that you really love and enjoy? That would be where the smaller portions might come in handy, so that then you're not having a large spike from a bunch of food all at once. I'm one of those people where I like to sample everything. So rather than having large servings of everything on my plate, I like to take a couple spoonfuls. That way I'm not missing out on anything. I know that I can try it all, but then I also know I'm not going to have 250 carbohydrates in one serving.
Yeah.
Which I have done before. Not going to lie and say that's never happened either.
We've got some other advice. We're coming close to the closing of our session. I want to keep answering these. We won't let any question go unanswered. Cece does have a good question for you, though. What if I don't like seafood? Are there any substitutes or supplements to take?
Sure, yeah. The great thing is that seafood, the big things that we get out of it are omega-3s, which are those heart-healthy, brain-healthy fats. You can get those from plant sources as well. So if you really don't like seafood, that's okay. It took me a long time to figure out what I do and don't like when it comes to seafood. You can get it from nuts and seeds, peanuts, almonds, Brazil nuts, as well as things like chia seed and flaxseed. Or if you'd rather, you can take an omega-3 supplement. Most omega-3 supplements are fish or krill based, but they do have flax and chia supplements as well. The only important thing to remember is that plant sources of omega-3s, you only absorb about 40%. So if you're taking 1,000 milligrams of chia seed, you're getting about 400 milligrams, or you're absorbing about 400 milligrams of that omega-3s. Whereas fish sources or animal sources, you'll absorb close to 100%. But otherwise, yeah, don't feel like you have to have seafood. The other thing we can sometimes get out of seafood is like a little vitamin D or calcium, but there's plenty of other sources for that as well.
And then Scott's got a great piece of advice. When he goes out to eat, he sometimes will order the kids' meal in order to get a smaller portion and save money. Mm-hmm. Scott, I think that's great. The thing I do is I try to split my meal and either bring it home and then I have it for the next day, or my husband and I will split our meals, and that saves the portion and then the money as well.
Yeah. And if you order a kid's meal, sometimes you get a toy.
Yeah. True. Let's see. Stacy is saying that she drinks water and that helps her not only with her hydration, but maybe feel like she's filling up a little bit more. I've heard that as well.
Yep. Water takes space in the stomach just like food does. And so while water is digested a little faster, it can help you feel full at the time you're eating. And it's important just to stay hydrated. It doesn't have to be water. If there are other liquids like tea or something you enjoy drinking, that's completely fine too. Of course, we're just trying to keep carbohydrate intake lower or at least moderate. So trying to steer away from like full sugar drinks if you have the opportunity.
Courtney, there's a comment about your lap blanket being accused.
Yes, this unconscious lump. My dog Lola, she's just old and tired.
We just have a couple more tips for you guys. Some tips on strategies that we found helpful in teaching patients on how to avoid overeating. Some of the things you guys already touched on, but one of them is making sure you're not eating while distracted. So watching TV and doing almost like mindless munching. Eating straight from a container also, where you should probably put it in a serving bowl. So then you consciously have to go back to get more. And then that sometimes stops you. Trying to reduce stress, adding more fiber, like what we were talking about earlier with adding some more vegetables in is a common way to do that. Keeping a food journal, because if you write it down, you may say, I don't want to write that down, and you may not eat it because of that.
Yeah.
Slowing down, and then just like Courtney talked about earlier, allowing that time. So we'll leave this up in case you guys want to keep a look at it. But these are some of the tips that we've seen most helpful when we're helping some of the people that we're working with, including ourselves.
Yeah.
Other questions? I don't see any other questions out there, but want to make a couple more announcements. For the month of November, Jenny Adams was our Courtesy Care winner. So she gets a free visit to Iowa Diabetes Care just for participating with us in the November session. So congratulations, Jenny. Message us if you want to set something up, and we'll get in touch with you. Just as a reminder, I see a couple of you guys tagging some people. We'll make sure to send you guys the 5 recipes. We do have some of those, and those recipes do exactly some of the things that we talked about, where we were substituting some different fats and adding vegetables to them. So we will definitely send those out to you guys, those who have tagged all your friends. So continue to do that. As a reminder, we're doing a series coming in 2021 all about New Year's resolutions. And we want to start changing diabetes for you, not only week to week, but for the whole year. And we're going to start doing a series that's going to be weekly, where we're going to help you set goals to improve your diet, improve your exercise, all the things related to health. And then hopefully help you track them and increase your chance of being successful in maintaining those resolutions in 2021. So do join our Facebook group, and we'll be sending out more information on that in the upcoming weeks, but we'll get started and ready to roll for that. The other thing is we are also going to be going live again with this video a little bit later. So we'll be playing this again. So share it with your friends so they can come watch us again. And then I believe the last announcement is the Diabetes Detective, and I have a chat on that. Diabetes Detective is Maria Garcia. So Maria, good job. Thanks for all the great questions. Just direct message us, and we will get your contact info so that we can get you your Amazon gift card. Thanks for being involved.